Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Inauguration Day to you. We're taking a look here at Solana, seeing what's going on. A bit of a pullback, of course, but we've seen a bit of a ripsaw as well from our good friend Bitcoin here. Can't quite seem to figure out what it wants to do. I'll get this, ranging between 99,700 and 110,000 even. Okay, so can't make this up. Exact round numbers are happening all the time, and Bitcoin's looking pretty sad in the overall sense, but also not terrible too. It's still mostly bullish, so please don't misinterpret that. But this price action has been completely abysmal. Same thing here as well for Solana, of course, just on a different scale, right? We can see our local all-time high, or sorry, previous all-time high of roughly 260. That goes back from 2021 and was retested again here recently. That area is somewhat of a confluence area. In other words, we got a lot of resistance forming at that range of 260. So if we can't close above 260 in the near future, that'll probably be the new resistance for us, and we may be coming back down. Now again, I really like the price action here for Solana, so I'm not spouting the fact that we're going to see the price turn around instantly or soon, but we're starting to see some confluence here on smaller time frames, more so just reaffirming resistances, and that the price action may be continuing a bit lower. But again, from a pattern perspective, it's actually looking pretty decent too. So we're going to talk about this. The main thing we want to focus on, I would say, is liquidation areas, key level supports and resistances, and just kind of consider limit orders on spot bags and pretty much avoid leverage for the next 24 hours. That's probably the best strategy there. And again, I'm going to probably notify my community here soon. Like, it's probably best just to pump the brakes, chill out, relax. Don't take any trades. I mean, I've already mentioned that in the chat, but I'll send a premium update too. But my whole when I talk about analyzing charts and being a responsible trader in situations like this, it's generally going to imply that you're using low or no leverage. Okay, so please recognize that. But let's take a look here. Back-end data, liquidation, left-hand side. We can see this is the last 7 days liquidation, and we can see there's a decent chunk between 230 and 210. Not a whole heck of a lot left to the upside here, which does imply that we're starting to get that resistance range. We kind of topped out tentatively. Let's take a look at the last 12 hours. I'm kind of curious where we're at here. A lot of the lower end liquidation levels have been swept though. So any late longs at 250 to 245 are completely destroyed now. There are late longs, of course, coming in with liquidation levels at about 240 to 243. But the overall sense here is, you don't generally trade into a trend like this. It's a descending trend. The price is pulling back. When a coin reaches all-time highs like it has, it needs to establish some range-bound activity before you can really try to trade with confidence. And right now, you're kind of just shooting, with your eyes closed. I was talking about that, in fact, with one of my community members earlier today about Elliott Wave, and they're like, "Hey, how does this all work with ABC? 1, 2, 3?" And I pretty much summarized the fact that if you're using Elliott Wave alone, you are doing yourself a significant disservice. It's the equivalent of shooting with your eyes closed. Now, some people can do it, right? But for the most part, you need to have eyes to see, right? Same thing as well. Again, just try not to limit yourself by only, doing one thing. You want to diversify a little bit, and we'll go through that here shortly. Either way you look at it, we can see liquidation delta is still high. In other words, for longs, we have more longs in the market than shorts. Regardless of how many longs just got destroyed here recently, we can see, of course, that there's still a decent chance that it can sustain and continue higher because we still have quote-unquote bullish momentum, right? Same thing here as well with open interest. If I recall correctly, there are some areas here locally where people were adding to their position. 262, 257, and 250 even, okay? So again, there's a lot of late longs that are having some trouble right now. Every one of them are underwater at this point, but just know that the most amount of buying pressure we're seeing right now is at 250, and then prior to that around 263. Okay, so that gives us some identifications of support and resistances, right? So 250 is roughly this guy here. That's a 0.618 fib range, roughly that golden pocket. And then the upper range of open interest is 263, just above this all-time high. Okay, so again, the likelihood of this support range here maintaining a support is high. But if we lose that, keep in mind, price action will and probably should continue lower. Okay, just bear in mind we have tons of support in the 197 to 203 range. If we ever come back down to that level, that is a pretty strong area there of support. Again, just throwing it out there, not proposing that's going to happen, but I don't love what I see here. We got a pretty strong doji candle here so far today, implying indecision in both directions. Again, generally you want to wait for that to happen before you take a trade. But the general idea here is that we have a lot of, again, support in this low $200 range. Heaven forbid we see the low 200s again. I would love to consider a spot bag at that point, or adding to the spot bag rather. Some longs effectively, if you will, in the low 200 range. Like 200 to 220 would be the area of interest. Now, are we going to see that level? Are we going to see that again? Maybe not, right? But for right now, we got to presume that the price action is going to continue the same direction it's heading, which once again is still mostly bullish, and further upside would make sense. Having said that though, let's take a look. We're kind of topped out on the RSI, letting us know that we're hitting that resistance range, which is normal, okay? It just implies that we shouldn't experience a massive breakout anytime soon. Unless Bitcoin really starts rallying and hitting 110 plus, then I don't think we're going to see anything super magnificent from this coin. I think we're going to be ranging for a little while between either the local point of control, which again, ever since we've been in this range is 240, and then secondary to that is 218, 220. So easy numbers to remember, I'm rounding up a little bit for these, is 220 and 240. Okay, those are kind of two easy round numbers to remember. So if you're going to consider a spot long, for example, 241 would make more sense, 221. You don't just set it at exact round numbers. The reason why, take a look at Bitcoin. Look at this high, exactly 110,000 to the dot. Okay, you can't, large round numbers are specifically occurring all the time. So try not to be another statistic in just, setting a limit order at a round number and getting upset you don't get filled. Well, you're in a long line if you choose the same number over everyone else's, right? Okay, so 4-hour time frame. We are in a curious situation here. Now, again, we're above the 20-day SMA, super helpful. Sorry, this is the 50. We're above the 50-day SMA. That's awesome. We want to be above that at all times. So that implies bullish momentum. The 20-day, though, is kind of like the initial trends that are kind of letting us know if we lose that, we'll probably see some kind of downside. So we're really needing to maintain above the 20 here today. And I think that that's going to be somewhat of a determining factor. So hypothetically, we close below the 20-day SMA, price could continue to pull back until it meets either the 50 or just hits its local support, which at this point here, the local bottom is about 230. Okay. So we got, again, easy round numbers, 220, 230, 240. Those are some easy numbers to remember. All that being said, volume is starting to dissipate. We're starting to see that average itself out. We're above 50 in the RSI, but we're getting closer to being below that. Closing below 50 in the RSI would be an indication for me to consider a short position if other conditions are met at that time. Again, don't just blindly set limit orders. You want to wait for confirmation, right? And to me, confirmation comes in a lot of different ways. But the hourly time frame here, being below the cloud, is not a very forgiving situation. We're also here with local range. Again, this is just based on the smaller time frame within the last, 7 days of trading. We can see 252 is that, 254, round number 255 is that resistance range for us at local point of control. So being below the cloud, lag and span being free and clear to the downside, albeit not super clear, and the conversion line below the baseline, these are all reasons to not really consider a long position and to just maybe think twice before taking a long at the tentative top. Again, 260, we've already identified 265, that range is that local resistance. So again, we got a lot of resistance in this range here and a decent amount of support here, right? So we're kind of smack dab in the middle. We're likely going to see a Bollinger Band breakout in the relative near future, which I commonly refer to, again, as just that squeeze that happens in either direction. We could see the price catapult to the upside, but Solana is one of the few coins that's massively overextended, and there's a lot more profit to be taken here with this coin. In addition to all that, we're also starting to see the Trump meme coin flatten out a little bit, and as the liquidity slows down into that coin, the Solana network is starting to recover and seeing less volume, so to speak. So in turn, we may actually see the price pull back here for Solana. So I'm actually, honestly, from a smaller time frame perspective here, I'm leaning more towards the price going down, and that a short might be a much more viable option than a long, just based on how much resistance we have so far. But if you're going to be patient and you're going to wait, you don't want to take a higher risk trade, I'd recommend waiting until we close either above or below this daily time frame. We need to close above 250, I would say, to have a solid chance at maintaining further upside. But this just doesn't seem like it's an appropriate consideration for a long. Slightly more, I'm leaning a little bit more towards a short, honestly. Those are just my thoughts here. We'll see what happens here soon. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks again so much for joining me. I'll post a playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. It looks a little something like that. It's available here for you. All right. Trust no other. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.